two things. One, you'll notice on the handout I gave you, I had to change the date. I went too far. I forgot about April 26th, and I had May 3rd on there. So it is 2 weeks. We're not meeting next week. All right? And so you turn in your microphones on so you can talk. And that's not on yet. I didn't turn it on. The second thing is, I just want to ask you, as we go through these two chapters, and they're lengthy chapters, 17 and 18 just seem like, why is John being told so much stuff about Babylon? And it goes on and on and on, and Jack goes on and on and on. What do you see about Jesus Christ in here? How is this a portrait of Jesus Christ? What's standing out in these two chapters?
He will have the final say.
Okay, he'll have the final say. I'm still got a little bit of a ring or something going on here.
Yes, and the feedback.
All right.
Talk about it.
All of you, they're trying to bring yours up because people have let us know they can't hear as well on your microphone, so that's why they're really touchy. And Isaac's trying to find a balance with that. But at home, when they're listening to me, it's at one volume, and then all of a sudden it fades out. And then I come back in really loud, and so one person said they're having to keep turning the volume up and down, up and down. So he's trying to find a balance there. Pray for Isaac.
Pray for Bernie and Robin.
Yeah, there's some others too, but that they can cope with this. Okay, he's in control. He's going to have his way. What else do you see in here?
He's being patient.
Okay, really, really patient. Been patient for thousands of years, because how far back does Babel go, Babylon?
We're still Babylon.
5,000?
Back to Genesis 10.
Yeah.
And so that's after the flood. The flood happened about 4,300 years ago. So say about 4,000 years ago, when the city was begun after the flood.
Oh, you mean it wasn't millions of years ago?
No, not millions. There's no evidence whatsoever, historically, archaeologically, carbon datedly, any of those, none of them point to millions of years. They're like they're doing with everything else today, they're lying to you. They get grants that way and they don't get in trouble. And it makes everybody happy, so that's what they do.
Well, I guess you don't get grants unless you lie.
That's how it works today. But
About this kind of stuff, yeah.
anything else about Jesus Christ? Because that's who we're looking at. This is a revelation of Jesus Christ, and yet you got 17 and 18. What's the difference between 17 and 18? You ready for tonight? What's happening with Babylon in chapter 18, the bulk of it?
Being destroyed.
Okay, it's being destroyed. What's being destroyed?
Babylon.
Okay, the actual literal physical place is being destroyed and consumed in 18. What's happening to her in 17? Dennis?
The merchants,
I guess you weren't ready. Okay. Go ahead.
the merchants, the realm of the financial aspect of what Babylon did for all the people is falling.
Okay, that's more chapter 18. What did you see in chapter 17? I put it on your outlines too, that one you got in the very beginning. Linda?
I saw that Babylon, the indignation and thinking that nothing was going to touch her, that she was
Okay,
strong.
she's very proud.
Yeah, and.
Wasn't going to be taken down.
Yeah.
Wouldn't see mourning,
Okay,
as
so
in sadness mourning.
what's being elevated in chapter 17 about Babylon? It's not her physical demise.
Kind of her spiritual condition.
It's her spiritual condition, and why she's deserving of that physical demise is because of what she's done. Politically, working with the beast, and all that's happened there. Now, I'm not saying every little verse in there is saying that, but the general picture is kind of bringing that out. He exposes her for her wickedness in 17, and then brings down the hammer and destroying her in chapter 18. That's kind of what we're looking at tonight. But he is the judge. He is the righteous one. He is almighty. You're going to look that up next week, I believe. I think I asked you. Yeah. How many times does almighty appear in the book of Revelation? Can somebody tell me? It only shows up one other time in the whole New Testament. All of the times, the other times it shows up are in the book of Revelation. They're all referring to Jesus Christ. I'm giving you a cheat sheet here so you can look ahead. Anybody have that access? Almighty in the book of Revelation.
You have a concordance.
Well, you have your electronic devices.
Oh,
Some of you sometimes bring concordances. I have a concordance
what's
right
the
here.
question?
Almighty. The word Almighty. You just look up Almighty in your concordance or on your electronic.
I have only one. 19.
What chapter? What
19 verse
translation is
18.
that? New American Standard. It's not a lot more than one.
Yeah, that's funny. That only showed one.
Same Greek word.
Almighty.
Almighty.
Yeah.
Dum, dum, dum.
pop-up quiz.
Well, you
in the
can look
NAS
at your next week's sheet and you can write it in.
In the NASB 95, it says there's 58 times.
Not Almighty.
That's what it
Capitalized.
says.
In
Yep.
NASB, it says
Yep,
Genesis,
and they list a
Numbers,
million of them. They start in
Job.
Genesis.
NASB says, yeah,
when it came
NASB
specifically.
95 anyway has 2 Corinthians 6, 18, and Revelation 1:8.
Oh, now you have 1:8 and she had,
Lots.
well, she had 58 of them, so that's a problem.
Well, I've seen.
This is interesting. So that means they're changing the word potentially in that translation where it doesn't show up as Almighty. It's the same Greek word. I don't know why they do that in the same book. That can be very confusing. And to me, describing the same person all once or twice, it focuses in more on God. I'm trying to look at this and talk at the same time. Chew gum.
Where is it in Revelation? What chapter?
What?
What chapter in
28.
Revelation is
It's in your study next week. It's in verse 6
of 19?
of chapter 19. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I thought it'd be a simple question. I thought you guys just whip that out.
Well, it's
I have
also
9.
in
I've
four.
seen 9.
Ah,
I've seen
how many?
9.
9.
9. Let me see what my concordance
One in
says,
Second
if it
Corinthians.
agrees, because I'm going, I didn't know there was a problem.
Well, this one says, yeah.
I'm talking about the number, the same number, 3841.
Job.
I'm not talking about the Old Testament, I'm talking about
Oh, I
the New Testament.
spelled it
Oh.
wrong.
So that's how you got the whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
I spelled it wrong.
19:6,
so one, it's
19:15.
Right.
I got 1, 2,
9 times.
4, 5, 6.
This says 10.
Well, 10 because of 2 Corinthians 6:18. So I said there's only one occasion outside of the book, 9 of them in the New Testament, and 9 of the 10 are in the book of Revelation.
No,
Yeah.
that's 10.
What did that tell you about Jesus Christ? Because if you start looking those up, which you will do next week, because you can check them out for yourself.
He's almighty.
Well, it's
Very good.
showing him coming back as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. This is his time. Jesus Christ is the main character of Revelation. He's the one
Right. But
bringing this.
he's almighty. He is,
All
God,
almighty.
Almighty.
give me an explanation. What does that word mean? Why would the kings of the earth put out the energy and the effort to gather together to fight him when he comes back? Months of preparation. Like I said, he's going to be up there for a long time. Dealing out retribution. Trumpets and bowls. Because they don't believe he is
The Messiah.
almighty.
Almighty.
This would be good. I'm trying to stick with the context here. They don't believe that. Or else you wouldn't take that on. You'd be one of the guys hiding out in the cave. Running for your life or trying to figure out some way to escape. You wouldn't be attacking him if you thought there was no way you're going to lose, unless you're so delusional and deceived by Satan
I think, yeah.
that he's actually leading you to your death.
Well, I think to that point, they will be the ones deceived, and they will.
There will be. But Satan's leading the Antichrist to his death, he gets thrown in the lake of fire. He leads the false prophet to his death, he gets thrown alive in the lake of fire, both of them. All the kings of the earth, Satan really cares about those people, doesn't
He
he?
uses
Not.
them. He uses them.
He's the epitome of lover of self in every way. So I'm just bringing out some stuff. So I just gave you an answer for 2 weeks from tonight. I said next
So
week,
did
and I
we
could
get
be
a
wrong.
concise answer?
9.
9? Okay.
Bev had that, but she thought I meant the whole Bible. And I was simply trying to zero in on the New Testament. So I'm just saying, when it shows up in the New Testament, and 9 of them are in the book of Revelation, that's kind of like interesting. Why such an emphasis? in a revelation of Jesus Christ. And because when you look up, at least 7 or 8 of them are clearly including Jesus. It refers to the Lord God. I think one of them said God Almighty, but you'll see if you look up the context of how they fit in the book, it's Jesus Christ who is Almighty in the book of Revelation.
Ruler of all.
Okay, it's a word where we get the word omnipotent. Almighty, all powerful is literally what it's really trying to bring up. So I just thought that was interesting. So we're going to have one of you read. We have a big chunk here. Let me see if I can find a nice little break. How about if you read through 14? Someone read 9 to 14 just to start with.
Oh, let's see.
Make sure your mic's working. Who's going to be our guinea pig?
I'll read.
Okay, Linda.
After these things I heard something like a loud voice of a great multitude in heaven saying, Hallelujah, salvation, glory and power belong to our...
We're in 18.
Pardon me.
Sorry,
We
you-
talked about 19.
I know, I got you into 19.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good
Okay,
reading.
till 9, starting at 9. And the kings of the earth who committed acts of sexual immorality and lived luxuriously with her will weep and mourn over her when they see the smoke of her burning, standing at a distance because of the fear of her torment, saying, Woe, woe, the great city of Babylon, the strong city, for in 1 hour your judgment is come. And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargo anymore. Cargo of gold, silver, precious stones and pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, and scarlet, every kind of citron wood, every article of ivory, and every article made from very valuable wood, bronze, iron, and marble, cinnamon, spice, incense, perfume, frankincense, wine, olive oil, fine flour, wheat, cattle, sheep, and cargo of horses, carriages, slaves, and human lives. The fruit you longed for has left you, and all things that were luxurious and splendid have passed away from you, and people will no longer find them.
And go ahead and go to 16. That'll be a better stopping.
The merchants of these things who became rich from her will stand at a distance because of the fear of her torment, weeping and mourning, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, who was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold, precious stones, and pearls.
And then that little line, for in 1 hour, such
For in-
great waste. I don't know why they put chapter verse divisions the way they do,
For in 1 hour such great wealth has been laid waste.
but, all right. So as we go to the questions here, who's going to react to Babylon's demise first in
Kings
this
of the earth,
passage? Kings of the earth. How are they going to respond?
Whoa, whoa.
weep and lament.
They're going to weep and lament, right? So we looked up the word weep, and it meant what? $27.99.
To mourn an audible grief.
Okay, to mourn and what kind of?
Audible grief.
Audible grief, okay. It's even stronger than that. That fits, but it even goes further. What's it? They wail
Wail aloud.
aloud.
External expression of grief.
Okay. It's any loud expression of grief in this case, and it includes tears according to some. I got different responses from different places I looked. But they are bawling out loud. And what have they just seen? You've read the part we just read, generally speaking.
Their
You-
town
She
was
was
destroyed.
Destruction.
Everything was
What,
gone.
what city in your lifetime has been wiped out like this?
Well, in Japan,
Some of your lifetime, Jeff.
when they dropped the atomic bomb.
Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and what did people do there?
This,
They did the
blew
same
up.
thing.
You know, the ones that lived through it, the ones who were around there, it's not funny, I know. Sorry. But the picture here, they wailed with loud expression of grief and tears. They bawled their eyes out. This is what they're going to do, but what they're doing it for is because they lost
Money.
their money.
Well,
But kind of a little different picture here. I don't want to just focus on the money because that's the second one. This first one really focuses on the secondary, which we'll answer in just a second. They also lamented, 2875. Literally means,
That's where I found wail. That's
okay, the word literally means to beat your breast. This carries the idea to beat on something. This is to smite the breast as a token of grief. Now, I don't know, I don't do that. I don't know if when you get really upset, if you're just, whoa, you know, I've seen people on TV do that, but I've never been put to that extent of sorrow to where you just lose it. And there are many, and again, it's some of the documentaries watching world wars, some of the stuff that's happened to people. And so they're not only this wailing out loud with tears, they're beating their breasts. These are the kings of the earth. These are the top guys, the political leaders. So this is a political loss to them. Why would they respond this way?
When they see the smoke of her burning.
Smoke of her burning. And where will they be positioning themselves?
At
At
a
a
distance.
distance.
Why at a distance?
Because of the fear of her torment.
And what does that mean?
They don't want it to reach them.
Okay, they don't want it to reach them. They're afraid of
The
The
judgment.
judgment.
the judgment, the
Demise,
what?
the demise.
The demise. Literally, what it's telling you here, the burning is what I'm looking for. They don't even want to come close unless the same thing happens to them. These are the kings. Now, we're not talking about everybody. Just talking about the world rulers. What does that tell you about them? Where are they? Just see this.
Babylon.
Near Babylon. They're at a distance.
There you go.
And why would they be there?
There must have been a financial convention.
They must be coming and going with this city.
Uh-huh.
Right now, what are the cities that people come and go to when they're in top top political positions in the world?
To America, for
New York
the UN.
City.
New York, maybe,
Davos, Washington,
and
D.C.
Switzerland, Davos, Switzerland.
Washington, D.C.
Could be, but again, if they're invited, if they're allowed to come in. But where they can't push them away from New York, and Switzerland's taking them all, especially the ones that are trying to take over the world right now.
Yep.
So it's just interesting. That's the group that you want to mentally focus on, is what's going on. And they don't want to go there anymore at this point. And they're standing back at a distance because they're afraid it might happen to them. What were they saying in verse 10? Woe, woe, the great city. That word woe, I just wrote it in there. You've looked it up before. It just means alas. Alas, alas, the great city. It brings up the idea of this calamity is the word for woe. And what happens to that great city? What's its name?
Babylon, the
Babylon.
strong city.
And then he calls it the
Strong city.
strong city. So what did the kings feel like when they went there?
Probably safe.
They felt powerful. They felt really safe. That's what they feel like in Switzerland, because Switzerland is,
Neutral.
I think it's still neutral, but I question that these days. Not what it was like in World War II. And why did they honor that? Why did Germany honor that? Just ignored them. Kind of weird to me, except their money was all in there, so they didn't want to mess it up. But as you're looking at this, what is the focus here? So I'm trying to zero in on these kings and their reaction to this burning. What's their focus? What stands out to you?
To the might and the power.
Merchandise.
Okay, I got two. Dennis?
No more wealth or merchandise.
Okay, merchandise kicks in more with the merchants. What is they bringing out? That the idea of calling them the strong city, all of them call Babylon the great city, but they call it the strong city. Linda?
It's the might and the power.
Okay,
A
their
general
might and
from that
power
city.
has been run through this entity,
Yes.
and it's burning up in front of them. Jim?
That's what I was going to say. Their worldly power.
Okay, their worldly power. I put down this powerful empire has been taken down. The mighty city was defeated, and the kings have nowhere to congregate. I didn't write that, but you can say that. That's what he's zeroing in on. That's what bothers them. It's weird. I don't know how often you watch the news. I know some of you, you're totally sick of it. I want to see firsthand accounts. I don't like talk, especially talking heads.
But that's what it is.
Driving, no. When they play clips and they show the people, then they're talking for themselves and not having some newscaster tell me what they said or interpret it, which is always a bad thing. And now they're really interpreting these days. But when you see it for themselves and you see them in a crowd, what are they doing?
Now, who is the they you're talking
The
about?
rich kings of the
the
earth.
rich kings.
When you get pictures of them, how do they portray themselves?
Like they're perfect.
Okay, they may come across perfect. How are they dressed?
How,
Very nice.
suits.
To the hilt, very nicely,
Uh-huh.
wearing the best of the best, These are not $50 suits or hand-me-downs from somebody.
Everything top dollar.
These are multiple thousands of dollars of suits that they're wearing, and ties, and everything else, the men. And the women are in dresses that are tens of thousands sometimes of dollars. What else do they look like when you see them? What's their face look like?
Well, they look like they're very in control
Rebuild.
or proud.
They want to be control. We don't need that one, but that's okay. You're right, but that's a judgment call. So we'll have to guess which ones have
Judgment,
Botox,
it's a fact.
which ones have whatever they've done to them. Hair plants. Okay, really regal. Okay, very good. That word fits in well with the kings. They have to come across showing. So how do they enter into a banquet or a ball?
With escorts.
With escorts, one couple or one person at a time.
On red carpets.
On red carpets, and they're announced. And everybody's supposed to, ooh, oh, look who's here. Oh, ooh. And then they all start moving toward those people because they want to be seen with them on camera. They could care less about those people. But they have the power. So do you understand that's this group? That's who he's talking about here? And those people are alive and well on planet Earth right now. They're the ones who gather together to take on Jesus Christ. When their city's gone, what do they have left? Armies. And their own kingdoms, wherever they came from. And they got to take out the guy who's causing the mess. At least try to stop it in some way. So why react to this calamity in verse 10?
For in 1 hour your judgment has come.
Okay, and we've looked at it before. I put there hour, the word hour, oros, is simply a short period of time. We talked about this a little while back. It's not 60 minutes, which is what Americans understand it to be, and maybe other people in the world. But it's just a short period of time, which 60 minutes fits fine, and we put it into our clock, and we call it an hour. But this is very short. So what we are interpreting here is, and again, reminder, it's not Jesus Christ taking out Babylon. Remember that? Who takes out Babylon?
The Antichrist.
Antichrist, chapter 17. The Antichrist turns on the woman and takes her out. Now, obviously, Christ is behind that. He's authorizing that, and it's a just thing. But when she's taken out by the Antichrist, how is she taken out? The city. I'm focused on the physical location. By burning.
Burning, yeah.
She's burned up. Best way we can conjure that today is some type of a nuclear explosion. I don't know for sure that's what this is, if they come up with some new way of cooking a city. But I'm guessing it's probably related in some way.
Well, if they're watching from a distance and seeing this, they're seeing something,
It's big,
yeah.
really big. And so you realize that what they've seen, it could be a mushroom cloud going up, where the city was supposed to be, but it is literally burning. It's not what's the other neutron bomb that actually kills people but doesn't damage things. They don't want the city even. Antichrist doesn't want the city. He wants it toasted. That is interesting to me. Why would he want to just take over? Okay?
Well, the nuclear bombs they have nowadays are 500 times more powerful than the ones on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Right.
500 times more powerful. That's just
And
one.
That's what we know. Then there's many years of stuff you don't know what's really going on. Dennis?
Well, he's focused on Israel. I mean, he wants,
Yeah, his focus is Israel.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about Babylon, the great city. That's somebody else's empire. He wants Israel because he wants to sit on the throne. He and Satan want to be recognized as God, the God that should be worshipped. So you're right, very good observation. This is what's happening in this process. As you put this through and you're reading, you don't want to just rip through the book of Revelation. You want to make sure you're understanding the context as you go through there of why this is happening. In verse 11, what else, or who else will react to Babylon's demise? Second group.
The merchants,
Merchants of the earth, and the merchant simply means
tradesmen.
tradesmen.
A passenger on shipboard.
They wanted to put it as passengers on shipboard, but I don't think that fits well. But yes, I found that.
Means one on a journey.
A what?
It means one on a journey.
One on a journey, and so if you're a merchant on a journey, you are a
Traveling merchant.
traveling merchant or a traveling salesman is kind of more the word we use today. That fits a lot better here. Traveling salesman, and they picture the idea on not just a general journey, but on by sea, is how some of them want to lock on. I don't know if you can prove that or not, In fact, I'll put that in parentheses just so I'm careful. But it definitely is some kind of traveling salesman. That's who they are. How are they going to respond?
Weep and mourn over her.
All right, we looked up weep up above, but this is a new one. Mourn is a different word. 3996 means
To grieve,
grieve,
Lament.
lament,
Bewail.
bewail, be sad, have sorrow. It's more that idea. So they're responding similarly, and it may just be synonyms, like he's not trying to make it, but they're not beating their breasts. That's not the word being used here. They are simply lamenting and grieving and being sad over what they're seeing. Why will they respond?
Because no one is buying their cargo.
What are they not? Now, this is a bonus question. What are they not responding to?
Yeah,
The deaths of how many people?
yeah.
Yeah.
If this city is great,
all the people.
it's large city. If it's something related to Neom and it's 50 miles by 50 miles, how many people can you put in there? How many people are in New York City?
Millions. I don't know how many millions.
Isn't it up to something like 17 million? It's some high number. I don't think it's the biggest city in the world, but I was astonished when I heard
Mexico City.
how big it was. Yeah, that might be even bigger. So maybe it's 20 million, 25 million people, maybe more, that are in this city and they just all got toasted. And these guys are looking at it and their concern is,
Nobody's buying their cargo.
they're on our buyers. We don't care about those people. Lovers of self. How many items are specified as being in their cargoes?
I came up with 30.
I got 28.
I got 29.
I came up with 29, but added, if
29
you went to the
according to your
next
list.
verse.
How'd you know?
I
Oh, you mean
yeah,
theirs?
I counted in my book, not his list.
Well, I counted there first.
Okay, well, I counted 29, so Bev said there's a, or you just said there was an extra one. What was that?
Well, if you go to
next
the next
verse.
verse, then there's
Actually,
a
it's
couple
more
other
than that,
things
though.
that are added in
The
there.
next verse adds what?
Let's
It
see.
wasn't the cargo.
The 14.
Verse 14
And then
adds,
it says,
I was allowed two mistakes.
the fruit you long for has left you, and all things that were luxurious
Okay.
and splendid have
That's
passed.
not a cargo.
that's not one of the 30, that's a general term that really refers to the harvest. What they were gaining from their,
Okay.
the fruits.
But I put 29/32.
Okay.
If you add
Yeah, if you want to start adding more. But the list ends with a period, even in your English, and it probably does, I'll check it, but it probably does in the, yep, it does in the Greek as well, although those were added later, but they believe it stops there, whoever added it.
Well,
Well,
there
I'm
could
more interested-
possibly be more because it says, and every kind.
Okay, but how many are listed? That was my question, wasn't it?
29.
Yep.
How many items are specified as being in their cargoes?
So I'm more interested in the next question.
29.
29.
Why, the next question, how many, why be so specific?
I don't know.
What does that list tell you, Paul?
I put down emphasizing everything is a loss.
Okay, emphasizing how much of everything was lost. What else
What do you mean by-
emphasized?
well-
When you look at the list, Linda brought out, her translation did a really good job with the word wood. What did you say before wood?
It said, every article of ivory and every article made from very valuable wood,
Okay,
bronze, iron, and marble.
the word is thiine, or thigh, yeah, it should be thigh. Yeah, probably not both of them are long L, or long vowel, but that's the literal word there. Mine said citron word, but it's trying to bring out the meaning behind that is it was a very expensive wood. I don't know what you would use today if you wanted to really, you're going to build this out of the best. I think of mahogany's more common today. Rosewood goes up.
Color.
What's that?
Color.
Okay, and some we don't know the names of. That's kind of what this is. So they don't even know how to translate this or how to bring it over. It was some super expensive wood, and so it's something like a combination of teak that holds up really well, rosewood that is just really gorgeous. All these things, the rich only get the best. I couldn't believe what I found out was they were putting into some of these motorhomes. Very little wood because they don't want a lot of weight in it, but where they did put wood, it was like, ooh. So why would you go out of your way? Everything in here, they're trying to tell you this is the best of the best. Why stress all of that? Not only did they lose it, but it tells you these people were,
Good, describes great wealth.
really wealthy,
Wide
really rich.
It-
They were hoarding the resources of the world and spending it on themselves.
And
Linda?
it even goes to slaves and human lives, so
Yep.
who have the slaves but the rich people? You know, poor people
Yeah.
don't have slaves.
They had slaves, and it may literally be, even though right now politically it's not correct, but realistically in the world, many countries have slaves.
Well, they have all the sex slaves, even.
Yeah.
Well, in a variety of ways.
Yes, and some of the
Well-
people's servants are treated like slaves.
Okay, well, these are slaves. These people don't have any freedom. They're actually there to serve their masters.
Our government goes after slaves outside of our country. They're not, too proud to pay for commodities that come
Oh,
from.
you mean, okay, some of those kings and political leaders and people that have money.
Right, well, and even our own government, they are spending money on commodities that are outside the
Oh,
country.
made by slaves,
That
okay.
are by children. I
Yeah,
mean,
and they look the other way. They
Yeah.
don't care.
Cool.
So this is not, slavery has not gone away on planet Earth by any means. And so here you have them, and well, we could specify, we'd go into this a whole bunch, but the focus of this, they not only have slaves, but they have human lives, the souls of men. I don't know how the two are differentiating between that, because that's all it says there. But somehow they have these as cargoes. These people are actually being sold as commodities around the world. So they could say, well, they're not slaves, they're musicians, they're talented artists, they're craftsmen, and we sell those people to a country to put them to work there, and they get treated differently than the slaves, but they're still there. I'm not sure what souls of men represents. Jim?
Could it possibly include, like, what we see, very big deal these days is sex trafficking?
Right, but then you'd be enslaved. That would fit more in with the idea of slavery, because that is not what they would pick. But I don't know, so I'm not trying to limit it, but what it's bringing up here is not only is it gone, all this wealth has been piled into one major city, and it's wiped out in an hour, as it says there, a short period of time. But it's also telling you that the riches of the world had been gathered there. The Antichrist is not interested, as Dennis said, his focus is not the riches, it's the worship. It's the attention, it's the fact of being called God that I'm after. And so lawlessness is getting me there, which, isn't it interesting how that is taking over our world right now? Is the Bible accurate? Would you have ever believed, even 10 years ago, that what you're seeing today would be happening?
No.
No, there's no way. Ken?
How long is it gonna take to build this city, rebuild the city of Babylon to obtain all that wealth?
If it's a separate place from the actual location of the original Babylon, and it's Neom, it's being built right now.
Right.
Or if it's one of the existing cities that they build up like that. But to me, Neom is so far beyond anything on planet Earth that, and it's right on the ocean to where you could see it. Which is why they picked on Rome, they picked on New York. They grabbed some cities that they thought, oh, this will fit, this will fit, this will fit. So it might fit as well if Babylon is simply a generic figure. But when you go back and look at Isaiah and Jeremiah especially, as I gave you, and I think you all got the handout, you've gotten this before, it's in the packet, but a write-up on Babylon and a lot of quotes from the prophets. Anybody need this? Okay.
Well, I'll take one,
All right.
but I also have a
I'll leave
question. Is Babylon supposedly supposed to be on the Dead Sea, correct? Or-
The literal Babylon is on the Euphrates River in modern-day Iraq.
The new one.
No, the original one. The Neom, if that is a possibility, oh, you don't need that, okay.
I don't need that.
If that's a possibility, it's located in northwestern Saudi Arabia, right near the two arms of the Red Sea where they come up. Gulf of Aqaba. It's right in there. Just south, it's interesting to me, it's just south of the Mount Sinai.
It's like 4
Is where it's located in Saudi Arabia. Jim?
I did a quick look here. New York City has 8.8 million people
Okay.
in 300 square miles. 50 by 50 for Neom is 2,500 square miles.
So maybe it's Mexico City that has 17 million there, but I don't think Mexico City is even the biggest city in the world. Okay, so you're saying you could fit many more millions. Okay, I lost you. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, what have the merchants lost in the smoke of Babylon's burning in verse 14? Oops. Oh, the why be so specific? Did you guys get an answer there, right above there?
Yep.
I just put down to emphasize how wealthy this city was. And then I put in quotation, blood money. How they got this and how, obviously why Babylon's being destroyed is the blood of the prophet. You're going to see that come up.
China.
But all that's happened, all that they've done, they've killed off the righteous to get what they've gotten. And you can see that minuscule picture in the Holocaust. Germany went in and took everything. You ever watch a documentary on what Germany took and how extensive their collections were?
Oh, yes.
And where they hid them? All the art, all the gold, all the land, all this stuff that they had taken. Well, you can imagine what this city is going to do in controlling the whole world. They will dominate all that. And so what's burning up are the treasures of mankind that will be collected in that city, wherever it's located. What have the merchants lost in the smoke? First off, what would involve their income?
The fruit you long for.
Okay, that word fruit there is simply the harvest, which is what they were gleaning and how they were making money off of them. That's all it's being used for. Karpos, the word for fruit here is just a general term. It can be literal fruit or it can be used figuratively. And so this probably is trying to give a figurative use for these 29 items that are spelled out. And he's not trying to limit it to 29. He's just telling you, here's a long list. Could have given you 5 of really rich things, but he went on and on and on, and I didn't take a lot of time. Ken?
We just found the largest city is in China, it's 32 million.
Chongqing or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say there's 50 million people, they burn up instantly. Who's weeping over them? Their families are probably there. They probably are burned up as a family group. But what's fascinating to me, the little bit of travel, which what we're going to be doing next Wednesday, I won't be here, remind you, next Wednesday we're not meeting. You're on vacation, you're on ministry, you have responsibility to have somebody over for lunch, for dinner, to go find somebody in need, to go wash windows. But you're going to do something out there. But when we get on flights, the people I bump into the most that will talk to me, a lot of times they put their buds in or they just shut me down.
Mostly.
I ask somebody a question and they put their buds in and just crouched down and that was it.
And we used to be able to share.
Oh, they used to talk a lot. But when they will talk, and the last one we had a couple people because it was a more lighthearted interaction, especially because Bev was sitting 3 rows back from me because of how they messed up our seats. And so and then the lady got up and switched places. No, I'm saying there's some nice people on planes, so don't worry if you have to fly. But oftentimes it's businessmen.
Yeah.
And I sit there as I talk to so many of them. I go, where are all these guys going? Well, this one guy shared what his business was, and he's the one who helped us because we were late for a flight. One of them we stood there talking to for a long time, and he's very outspoken. But there's scads of them on these airplane flights, and this is what's going on.
Yeah, the wealth.
They're all in it to make money.
Yeah.
Some of them are not trying to get rich. That guy was a really nice guy, just trying to do a business. But this is who these people are. And it's already happening. It's already set up. But if they find out that's where you make money, then that's where they all direct their attention.
Ambulance chasers.
Go get rich. What's that?
Ambulance chasers.
Oh, ambulance stations, yeah. The lawyers probably will be there too. But what's the second item here? How's indulgence described?
All things that were luxurious and splendid.
Okay, so luxurious means literally,
Sumptuous.
Fat.
fatty,
Oily.
oily.
and
Okay,
rich.
that's what it means. But if you could get that kind of a product, that's what put meat on your bones. That's how it has. That's what the flavor is. That's what people go for. So figuratively, Linda, it means
Sumptuous.
okay, something that's sumptuous.
Sumptuous things.
Dainty is one thing.
Dainty is another word they use. Delicate, but it carries the idea of being rich and being costly, because that's what the oily, fatty products were. When you go out and have a meal, do you get what's the cheapest steak?
Hamburger.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, but you got to still be able to call it a steak.
The chuck roast.
Round, okay, you get a round steak.
Oh, yeah.
But if you really want to eat well, you get a
Filet mignon.
filet mignon, which doesn't have a lot of fat on it because it's the meat it takes care of it.
Prime
Oh,
rib.
no.
Or you get a prime rib. This is the fatty, oily stuff, and it costs a lot more money.
That's the ribeye.
And for some ribeye, some of us, we cut that off. We don't want to eat that. But for the rich, and for some members of my family that I won't expose because they may hear me, that's what they love.
And it clogs your
It's the
arteries.
skin and the fatty parts that are there. But this is what they're talking about. They've lost that. They're so spoiled and maybe overweight. Maybe not, but it would be implied by that kind of a diet. And how do you describe the word splendid?
Magnificent.
Shining.
Shining and bright. Okay, that's the main idea. So then it comes across with the idea of being potentially magnificent, gorgeous, brilliant. Who wears clothes like that?
Models.
Models,
Rich,
rich people, when they're especially wanting to show off.
politicians.
Politicians sometimes, and
Hollywood people.
Hollywood people, the
Performers.
ones walking the
Athletes,
causeway, whatever they call that thing.
athletes, some athletes.
Okay, some athletes,
Showy.
entertainers, they put on, the pianists will put on these clothes, you go, what is that? But it creates an image for them to draw attention. All of those type of things, those splendid, bright, shiny. I'm thinking of that word from a cartoon or a movie.
Shiny, oh,
Ooh, shiny, that's
Ooh,
Jim,
shiny,
that's
yeah.
where I get it from. Ooh, shiny. Bright, shiny object, what do you call it, Jim?
ADD is attention deficit disorder, ADHD, similar type of thing. ADOS, attention deficit, shiny.
Okay, so that you got it firsthand from Jim, and his microphone was even working. So how have these merchants benefited in verse 15?
Became rich from
When they say rich, they mean rich. Rich. They're emphasizing this extremity because Americans are rich, but not to this degree. Jim?
I think you're thinking of the movie Squirrel.
Well, yeah.
Right. But shiny works better. That's a better illustration. So how will they respond like the kings?
Stand at a distance,
They will
because
stand
fear
at a
and torment,
distance.
weeping and mourning.
All right, they crammed it all in there. Stand at a distance because of the fear of her torment, and again, stressing the idea that they're weeping and mourning. Number 1 up above, number 4 on the second one on the next list there. So we looked those up already. What will these versions be saying?
Whoa, whoa, the great city.
Oh, did they all get this same line from some movie or something? Why are they doing that?
Because God said it.
Oh, because that's what he says. Alas, alas, a calamity regarding the great city. And then explain she who was
Clothed in fine linen, and purple,
and scarlet.
and adorned with gold, and precious stones, and pearls.
What do you call that? I know what I call it.
Arrogant.
Arrogant? Gaudy is what I call it. This is ridiculous. And this is how a lot of your movie stars, a lot of your people want to be seen in public. What are they showing off?
their wealth.
Their wealth, their riches. That's all they're doing, just like these guys. And they're realizing they can't have it anymore. It's gone. What is their focus?
Well,
A little different from the one up above. Right, this one is extremely rich city has gone.
Material possessions.
The wealth has been burned up. Everything, if you got on Amazon right now, which I don't recommend, if you can find another source, there are other ones out there that are trying to survive and compete. But if you got on there and you're looking for something and all of a sudden you went online and it said Amazon warehouses across the nation are burned up. Would that bother you? Would you weep in more?
No.
You go find the stuff somewhere else because you're not buying all of the gaudy, what's the second word?
Arrogant?
Arrogant stuff that is just for showing off. Generally, you go on there to get something that's more of a need. And then really half of what we buy is maybe a need. Maybe a third or a fourth of what we buy is really a need. There's some wants. There's things that we're wanting to do that we can live without. But we're not living like these guys, and it's destroying them. Their focus was on extremity riches, and they burned up how long? Why were they reacting to this calamity?
For
Yeah,
1 hour,
Short time.
Such great
Wealth.
has been.
laid waste.
What does laid waste mean? I didn't ask for that one.
Destroyed.
Bonus points here, and that's verse 16.
Then they go to St. Vincent de Paul's.
It's like,
Then they have to go to St. Vincent de Paul.
yeah, no St. Vincent de Paul.
I think
So
it's utterly
laid waste
destroyed,
means-
utterly destroyed.
Okay.
That'll be allowed in the city.
Utterly made desolate, brought to ruin, carries the idea of it being uninhabited and abandoned. Because the fire will take out everybody, everything. And so that's what it'll look like. A toasted landscape. You've seen pictures of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which was 1/500th the bomb, and it was only one. It doesn't tell you this could be 2 or 3 dropped on this city. It's hard to know. Or a warhead coming in, which they now do, where it may have 10. One missile coming in and 10 of them break out and they scatter to take out a whole area. Jim?
Just noticed that, that last question you have there on the first page, you say verse 16b, but it's actually verse 17.
Yeah.
Oh, because it crossed over. So, thank you very much. So that's 17, and does it need to say A?
Probably.
Yeah, it probably should say 17A. And then the one before it, cross off the A on the verse 16, it's just verse 16 by itself. 17A, and then you gotta go to the next page, which is where we're going right now. You're turning the page. You become 17B and 17C through 18A. And all I mean by those, I know people get frustrated, but it's common use. It just tells you what part of the verse is being referred to. So 17A is just the first part. Why they subdivided it there, I have no idea. That makes no sense to me.
You want another typo while you're doing that?
Yeah.
At the very bottom of the second page, what will be sadly found in
Oh,
her?
yeah,
Okay.
I had marked that one.
Okay.
The last question on the second page
Needs an L.
needs an L. What will be sadly found in her? My
Well,
spell check works sometimes.
Shorthand.
And then doesn't work other times.
the shorthand wheel.
Oh, that's shorthand, yeah. Or that's my friend down the street now. But, I don't know, it turns on and off. My computer is, Dave, what's the word for my computer?
Outdated.
Odd? No, it's not that old.
Oh,
It
it
just
only
has
takes.
a mind of its own.
half
It must have-
it's outdated.
Mind of its own. It has IT.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's taking over. It tries to tell me things and fix things and rearrange things. And, you know, what it really does is double up. Whenever I save something in a file, it makes 2 of them. Is that in there somewhere to be able to do that?
Yeah, it's called file saving.
No, I mean automatically you can pick that and say, every time I say save,
I want 2 of
a
them.
file or a, what's it called?
You might have programmed it to
document.
save all files.
I programmed it?
I don't know.
Somebody else got a hold of my computer. And Jim's not an Apple guy, so I can't even blame it on him. I can't blame it on Dave because it was
So
already
maybe I
there.
did it. Maybe I did it trying to fix it.
Yeah, I don't think so. It was a long time ago. But anyway, my computer has a mind of its own. That's a good
Right,
one,
it
Dave.
did it all on its own.
So here we are on page 2, and we need to read some more, don't we? Someone want to read 17 to 20? Who hasn't had a chance yet? 17 to 20, going.
I got you.
Okay.
And every shipmaster, and every passenger and sailor, and as many as make their living by the sea, stood at a distance, and were crying out as they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like the great city? And they threw dust on their heads, and were crying out, weeping and mourning, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, in which all who had ships at sea became rich by her wealth, for in 1 hour she has been laid waste.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that was it, right? No, one more, sorry, I cut you off.
Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you, saints and apostles and prophets, because God has pronounced judgment for you against her.
Okay, who else will react to Babylon's demise?
The saints, the prophets.
Every shipmaster.
And every passenger.
And every passenger and sailor. So when you look at these, the first group of kings, I said it was a political loss. The second group of merchants, I said, was a financial loss. And this third group of shipmaster, passenger, sailor, every one of them is a commercial loss. And how do they react?
Whoa, whoa.
Eventually,
They stood at a distance and were crying out as they saw the smoke of her burning.
Okay, they're also backed off. This has got to be a major explosion of some type that burns up this whole place in 1 hour, we're gonna see. So, but they're crying again, crying out loud. And so you define that word crying out, 2896, and it means
Inarticulate cry of fear or pain.
inarticulate cry of fear or pain. They use this to describe the cry of a raven. What's a raven sound like?
Screaming.
Screaming or shriek.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it's screaming. This is I forget the name, what they call this. The word itself sounds like the cry of a raven, and it's actually describing it. This is some kind of a shout or a scream, exclaiming of distress is what it's bringing out here. And it's in an imperfect tense. What's the imperfect tense?
Going on and on.
Continuous action in
Past.
past time. So this has been going on, this went on for a long time. What did they have to turn to? Where are these guys?
Don't see.
They're at sea, because that's what shipmasters, pastors, sailors who make their living by the sea, they're probably on these ships looking at this, and what do they do next?
Where do we go?
They don't have anything to do. They're either coming in to get a shipment, or they're leaving and realize this is the last shipment. So what just happened to the commodities on their ship? Man, they just went up in great value. They shouldn't be crying. What are they crying about? They can't get any more.
That's the last one, yeah.
They're not satisfied. How much was enough for Rockefeller?
Just a little
Just a little bit more. Money will never satisfy you. Stuff will never satisfy you.
Rockefeller.
Well, no, it wasn't Hughes, but there was another guy in there I mixed it up with sometimes. Hughes said some other dumb things, and then lost his mind. Sad to say. But as you're looking at this, what will they be saying again? Again, the comment.
What city is like the great city?
Can you imagine what this city's going to be like? Because it's pushing away all the other cities of the earth. They're nothing compared to this city. This is the great city. This is the important city. This is the mega city. This is the one where they're all getting rich. And what made this city so great in their eyes?
Everything you wanted, you could have it.
Okay?
It was where all their money was made and.
Okay? So all they made all their money, anything you
and
wanted
they-
to have,
they
you could
lived-
get there.
They lived well, they lived luxuriously.
Okay?
Had great power, apparently.
All right, power would have come from it. I put down they made a great living off of its size, luxuries, consumption, commerce, wealth, and whatever else you want to stick in there. Ken?
What's the rest of the world gonna do at that time?
Have a great loss. What do you buy now? When you get products, where are they made?
China.
Okay? If you don't want China, where else can they be made?
Taiwan,
Mostly the East.
Like
No, I meant the.
Afghanistan.
Taiwan,
Yeah. Philippines.
Indonesia,
India,
Thailand, Vietnam now, India, but Korea, Mexico. There's other people trying to cash in, and you guys left out the USA.
No, we
Because there's
stopped
not
doing
much
that.
Oh, you're not buying from them anymore. Okay.
Well, they're not making
There's
it
not
anymore.
much made here
They're not
anymore.
allowed to.
Right.
Well, our currencies.
Not much made here, and at this time, not much going to be made many places. You almost get the impression, and I haven't studied Neom enough, just for an example of a great city, they're making everything happen there. So they're going to bring in commerce. They're going to probably, you watch Taiwan get taken over, and I bet you much of that stuff's going to move to Neom. The chips, all of the things that people are doing. It's got to go somewhere.
Well, what did someone just said is 250 miles square when we said, somebody said 50.
2,500 square miles, it's 50 by 50.
Two-
2,500 square miles,
And what's New York?
300.
So it's 8 times plus the size of New York City.
Yeah.
But it's being designed to have no cars there.
No cars.
So if you don't have the need for normal roads, if you're simply getting around with electric vehicles of some kind, or they have mass transit of some kind, that also changes everything as far as there are no parking lots. You can even fit a whole bunch more in there. Of course, that sounds like New York City, but anyway, as he's going on here,
I don't see how the elite are not going to have some type of vehicle though.
they will be catered around, they won't care. They'll have an electric vehicle that somebody will transport. But there's a lot of stuff coming out now. If you're watching Modern Marvels, we only get the 20-year-old ones.
Well, the EVs that are like, drones now, that are.
Could be, I
shuttling people.
don't know how they're gonna get around.
Well-
Electric helicopters?
Tesla has, I think it's under Las Vegas. Musk, I believe it is, built a tunnel there where cars, you don't drive them. You get in them and they just shuttle to the next place.
Right, but they said no cars, so I don't know if they're gonna have something that's like a shuttle or some other kind of service.
Yeah, it's a little electric, but
Rich
it's more
don't
like
wanna
a car.
ride with everybody else. So there may be some way for them to get on those same lines with their chauffeur-driven shuttle, or whatever it is, that has all of their water, wine, TV, bodyguards, all that stuff will be in it. So I don't know. You'll have to check with NEOM to see how they're doing it. So how else are they gonna react?
There's dust on their heads and crying out, weeping and mourning.
Where'd they get the dust? These are shipmaster, passenger, sailors.
Probably from the particles coming down.
I don't know, but that's another picture. Who throws dust on their heads in Scripture?
Morning.
Middle Easterners, not just the Jews, but others. And why do they do it? Typically, it could be from mourning, it can be from morning, it can be from
Evening till afternoon, I don't know.
something bothering them greatly,
Lamenting.
okay? But they're crying out, they're weeping, they're mourning. So you see verses 9 and 11, we already saw some of that. All of these people have a lot of tears when it comes to their riches being gone. What else will they be saying? Oh, there it is.
Whoa.
Okay, what about the great city?
Which all of our ships at sea became rich by her wealth.
All right, that's all they're focused on is these ships. What was their focus in this case?
Again,
The money.
Making money, making riches by way of shipping, because that's their focus here.
They lost
They're
their wealth.
taking her wealth and making money, carting it back and forth. Why are they reacting to this calamity? Oh, I think we've seen that before.
For in 1 hour she has been laid waste.
Okay, verse 10, verse 16, verse 19 repeats the same thing. Again, usually for emphasis is why you see this repeated. She's been made desolate, brought to ruin, uninhabited, abandoned in 1 hour. They could care less about all of that except for their riches that they lost. Remember, I don't know if you saw again, many of the documentaries I've watched, when one of the casinos in Las Vegas burnt, and it was burning at one end, it was a gigantic casino, and what were the gamblers doing? Anybody see that one?
Grabbing all the chips.
Probably still gambling.
No, they kept gambling.
Oh,
They're working a machine that's gonna cash out at any moment. You can't walk away from it, because somebody else may walk up and just do one pull, and they get all the winnings. So they literally had to send security guys in and escort people out. Then they showed you pictures in this documentary. They showed you pictures of the slot machines they were sitting in.
dragging them with them.
What do they look like?
Burnt.
Just a pile of rubble. Whatever was plastic or whatever was wires, and it just melted. It was everything in there. The whole casino burnt to the ground. And you got people, guess what they were doing outside?
Weeping and crying.
Weeping and mourning because they lost their riches in there. They knew, one more poll, one more poll. You know how to fix that?
Never go in.
Don't go there. Don't put in a nickel. Can you even do nickels anymore?
Yeah.
Ah,
Pennies
I
even.
want to find out who's still doing it. No, I'm just finding.
It's-
My mom was a nickel nut.
I
She'd
don't
go
think
in
you
and
put
just,
money in it. It's, you put $1 bill.
oh yeah, now it's not even coins
Yeah.
anymore. But she'd put one roll of nickels, that was her limit. And she always came away with some money that we could go get dinner with.
20
But
nickels.
she was very disciplined. But I only know that because we went there twice that way and I got to play in the kiddie area. I don't think they have those anymore. They do something else with the kids. Maybe they sell them. I don't know.
Did
But
they give
I'm
you
running
a-
out of time, so.
Did they give you a helmet, Jack?
No helmet. It was safe back then. They didn't even have it. You could walk out of the place. It wasn't even guarded or anything.
Oh, wow.
What is commanded to be done here, verse 20?
Rejoice over her.
Who? Who's he talking to?
O heaven, you saints and apostles,
Ah, very good.
prophets,
So all in heaven are going to rejoice, all the saints, apostles, prophets, and why are they going to do that?
The destruction of
God has
Babylon.
pronounced
Pronounced
judgment.
judgment.
God has authorized this. Even though the Antichrist carried it out, he's pronounced judgment for her, for you against her. I could have left you out so you also realize the emphasis there.
Y'all.
It's for you, in heaven, on earth, and it was all the blood of the prophets, we've already seen that brought up, that was slain in her area. She's going to be judged, wiped out. God isn't messing around. Now stop and think again, how long does the day of the Lord take? At least.
Well, we know
A
it's a
while.
Three
day.
and a half years.
No, the day of the Lord is trumpets and bowls.
One of them's 4.5 months or something.
Fifth trumpet is 5 months long.
Yeah, that's right.
What a contrast. Why go in and wipe out the city in 1 hour, but be wiping out those on the earth for potentially a year and a half, 2 years?
he's giving them time to repent.
Okay? And what was wrong with Babylon?
They weren't repenting.
The guess is, my guess, don't write this down, that the majority of the people in there all had the mark of the beast.
Oh, okay.
They'd already sold out, they were already done. They already made their decision, and they were destined to hell and then lake of fire, depending on how and when they die. So this last part, 21 to 24, and another reader who hasn't had a chance that wants to read. Okay, Rocky?
And a strong angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, So will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence, and will not be found any longer. And the sound of harpists and musicians and flute players and trumpeters will not be heard in you any longer. And no craftsman of any craft will be found in you any longer. And the sound of a mill will not be heard in you any longer. And the light of a lamp will not shine in you any longer. And the voice of the bridegroom and bride will not be heard in you any longer. For your merchants were the great men of the earth, because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all who have been slain on the earth.
So there, that last verse is kind of bringing this up as the entity, this Babylonian control of every one of the empires is kind of how he's picturing this, but we won't go into that too far. But when you start with the questions, who shows up in verse 21?
A strong
A
angel.
strong angel.
Strong angel. How many of those are there in the book of Revelation?
Many,
This is
many.
the only one
No, they're going out of their way to tell you this one's strong. What's he trying to
What was
emphasize?
the other one?
Goes with the strong city.
Remember how Michael the Archangel has a greater strength? So he's at some higher level here that shows up. What did he do?
Took
Took up
up
a stone,
like
What was the stone like?
a great
great
millstone.
millstone, and
Threw it
into
into
the sea.
the sea, and what will the angel say?
Thus will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence and
Okay,
will
before
not be
oh,
found.
sorry, will not be found any longer. So before we look at the definition of violence, what is this picture? Taking up a stone, a great millstone, throwing it into the sea. What is he trying to emphasize with that? Okay, it's great power, but how fast does it happen?
Instantly.
The rock's not in the sea, the rock's in the sea. This is a sudden destruction. Remember the 1 hour, the one period of time? This is what's going on. That's all he's trying to bring up, that she's being destroyed very rapidly. And then the word violence means,
Rushing on impulse.
which?
Impulse.
Impulse? Okay,
Rushing impulse.
okay, a rush of impulse?
A rush set
Rushing.
in motion.
Okay, I'm still not getting on with both of you going. A rushing impulse.
Right.
Okay, and Beth?
A rush set in
Okay.
motion.
Okay, a rush set in motion. It's an assault or rapid motion forward. Another one said a mighty onset.
An attack,
So this is again stressing what, Linda?
an attack.
An attack of some sort that's very quick. Pat?
Outburst of wrath.
Okay, it can carry that idea, but once we hear the word wrath, we think of God. But it can be done by Satan and by the Antichrist as well. So what will never take place in her any longer? What regarding entertainment?
Sound of harpists and musicians and flute players and trumpeters.
Okay, how big of a deal is entertainment today?
Big.
Big deal.
big, yeah.
People get filthy rich off of this. I don't know why they're filthy, but how about manufacturing?
No
No
craftsman,
craftsman of any craft.
And
the sound of a mill.
no sound of a mill. So those are both focusing on things that you would make. Silversmiths, stoneworkers, architects, artisans, and the mill typically, the sound of a mill would be, in that day, even home workers. So these could be including home businesses and all that happen around there. How about home life?
The light of a lamp, the voice of the bridegroom and the bride.
Okay, that's wiped out. And why will all these activities be gone? The lack of what? Resources, meaning,
Merchants were great and men of the earth.
okay, so the merchants that made this happen, that's the resource behind it all, gone. How about rebellion?
Because all of the nations were deceived by your sorcery.
All right, they're all living in this deception. Sorcery, 5331 means,
Pharmacy.
okay, we think of it as witchcraft, and that's fine, Jim.
It's the word we get pharmacy from.
Okay, which is a use of
Medicine,
medicine,
or drugs.
drugs, and then it can go to the idea of using spells.
Spells.
That's not the medicine or pharmacy side of it. And Linda?
I said spells.
Okay, spells, magic, enchantments, okay, incantations. So the idea here, this word appeals to the occult powers, to mysterious powers, to the demonic realm. So this is an interesting word, focusing in on the use of medicine. How are people using medicine today?
Oh my gosh.
When we go to the doctor, because they know I get a shot and I don't do anything else. But they still write things down. I tell them I take an aspirin once in a while. That's on my chart. Yeah, that's one of your medications. No, I take it about once every 2-3 weeks. Typically it was on a Sunday morning because I knew what I had to face. And I had to put it in my head. No, but they ask
We
me,
took
no,
3 to
no.
year 1.
No, what's that?
I said, we had to take 3 to year 1.
Yeah, right. Well, they said it both does. And when she goes in, and it's like, no, well, your list of medicine, do you know the stuff you take regularly? And we go, we don't.
None.
And my shot is a whole different world. I kick and scream and have to tie me down. Anyway, so this is not the norm today. They expect you to have this list, 5, 10 different medicines that you're on today. Why is that?
Because our whole medical
Because
system
most
is set
people
up
do.
that way.
Right. They're practicing medicine by way of drugs.
Western medicine.
They aren't, you know when the when's the last time your doctor said, you need to lose some weight?
Never.
Or your doctor said, you need to get some exercise. How are you doing daily? You need to go for a walk.
They'd rather prescribe you a
I'm
pill.
sorry?
They would rather prescribe you a pill.
Right, we're driven by medicine.
Well, the
And those
pharmaceuticals-
medicines put, okay,
Yeah.
what?
The pharmaceuticals are supporting the medical system, that's why.
Yeah.
Right, I'm not trying to get to the motive, I'm just saying, this is what's gonna be happening in the end.
what's best for you.
Okay. I can't hear when two people are talking and they can't, so I keep reminding you, try to let me recognize you, don't just be blurting out, because the people listening, and it isn't just Bernie and Rob, and there's some others, I want them to be able to hear. So what will be sadly found in her?
The blood of prophets and of saints and all who have been slain on the earth.
All right, so this is interesting, this word for slain here, I told you there, it means slaughtered. This is the word used as a victim of sacrifice. Who did they sacrifice these people to? The prophets and all the saints, and all have been martyred. Satan? Antichrist? When you talk about the temple, and they went to offer worship to God, what did they bring with them, the Jews? Sacrifices. What did the high priest bring with him once a year? Blood that's sprinkled on the altar. What did Antiochus Epiphanes bring?
A pig.
He slaughtered pig and put pig's blood on the altar of the temple. What might the Antichrist be using?
Human blood.
People.
Blood of prophets and of saints. Just like the Colosseums where they slaughtered them. I don't know, it's conjecture, but he's telling you that's what's going to happen. And so you say, well, they're worshiping the Antichrist, so they got to do it in some manner. It isn't just going to be bowing down. Just like John the Baptist, they may bring a head. What would it be like during the head of, maybe we should go off first before. but of a modern, well-known political figure that they would rather see dead. What if you were the one who showed up in Jerusalem with his head as an offering to the Antichrist? What does that say to the Antichrist? You are a loyal subject. You have done great work for me. You have taken out one of my enemies, and they could be various heads. I'm just throwing out to you, because even right now, the war that's going on in Ukraine, they've already broadcast that the Russians have beheaded some people. And you think to yourself, why would they do that? Well, it's because of who they're using. Who are they hiring? Mercenaries, and some of those are coming from the Middle East. And that's what they do to people. And that is what's happening already. And when you realize that many people are going to have their heads chopped off in the last days, I don't think it's going to be a neat guillotine that's going to be used. Pat?
I know how you do things, so you had political loss, financial loss, commercial loss,
That's the three groups.
not part
Kings,
four.
merchants.
You don't have
If there's a
something
fourth
for
group?
fourth one. Well, I was looking it over and I was wondering if you categorized it at all.
Under desolation.
Under desolation, like personal loss? or-
No, because there isn't another group mentioned there.
All right.
So it's the kings reacting, the merchants reacting, and then the
Right.
shipmaster, passenger, sailors reacting.
Thank
So
you.
I just gave three kind of generic ways that you could kind of see what they're doing there.
What was the third, you said political loss, commercial loss?
Political loss, financial loss, and commercial loss. Which is still financial loss, but it's different. They've lost their business. They've lost the way for them to make money by way of shipping. So don't get too mad at me for trying to hold you in line to make sure people can hear. I know some of you get frustrated when I, well, it appears that I spank you because I spank you
That's why we need those three F's.
nicely. I should take off, okay. All right, let's pray. We're a couple minutes over the normal time. Those at home can't tell. Father, we need you. We started out that way. This could bring a lot of fear on our part, or it could bring a lot of excitement. We need to recognize you're on the throne. We need to recognize that if you take us out, you know our limitations. You know how much we can, how much temptation we can handle. You know what to do with us and how to take care of us, or you know how to protect us. The implication is those who are alive and remain are going to be some believers. They're still going to be alive at the end of the great tribulation. So help us to trust you, that when it's time, you'll take us your way. But help us also realize how many are suffering even right now around the world that we need to pray for and not take for granted our luxuries, our conveniences, our homes, our clothing, our food. All the things that we have are great riches. May you show us how to conserve, but to do it for you and not to do it to show off to other people. And may we find ways to share the excess that we have with others in need, especially to promote the gospel. So we need you. We ask you to guide us and to help us be focused on your glory and not ours. And may we love others and not be wrapped up in ourselves. We thank you for what you'll do in Jesus' name. Amen.